All right, let's do this. Welcome to EduConsult Sweden. My name is Robin. I'm the co-founder of EduConsult, and I want to use this video to explain to you why I actually decided to go to Sweden and study in Sweden in the first place, and just sharing my own story and my own experiences that I had in Sweden. And should be a quick video. But maybe a little bit for my background. In 2018, I started studying my master's degree in Jönköping University, and I did a Master's of Science in Digital Business because my idea was to have a business degree that is also kind of intertwined with technology, because I felt moving forward it will be important to have this viewpoint of technology and to kind of see where digitalization will get us. And I was very interested in that. So I was searching for programs that were kind of bridging business as well as digitalization. And while searching, I didn't exclude any countries when I was searching for that. I was just open to whatever country would come up, as long as it was an interesting program. And while I was searching, I noticed early on that there weren't too many options. I'm a German citizen, and in Germany I couldn't find any programs, or I could find some programs, but those were all in German, which I didn't want to do. And I noticed that in Scandinavia, and especially in Sweden, there was more interest when it comes to technology. There was a certain drive towards technology, which we'll also talk about a bit later. So I was thinking of Scandinavia because I saw there were some interesting programs, and then I decided to attend a trade show and saw different speakers, saw different universities, talked to different people. And in my head, I was also thinking of Great Britain a lot, obviously the countries where you would speak English and that you kind of would think about. The US maybe excluded, because for me it was a no-brainer, because I just think it's way too costly to study in the US. So that was a definite no for me. And that's why I went to a trade show, and I saw like some universities from Sweden who were also there, and the people who I talked to were very nice and I just vibed immediately with those Swedes who were there basically. And that actually kind of led me towards thinking about Sweden. And I actually found my study program at a Swedish university, at University of Jönköping, where I ultimately also got accepted and went for a 2 years master degree. So that was the short story basically. And I was very, very happy with my decision. And that's why I want to share with you just my personal story, how it was for me. So maybe now we can talk about English as a spoken language, not just for your university degree, but also in everyday life. It's very important to know, or for you to know, that in order to study in Sweden, you don't need to learn Swedish. Because why do you not need to learn Swedish? Of course, it's very nice of you if you go to study in Sweden and learn their language, of course, in everyday life. It's a nice, respectful thing to do. But it's not necessary, because most Swedes, and most people don't know that, but in Sweden, almost everybody is bilingual. So almost everyone speaks English fluently, I would say. So, or even to an extent that you can communicate with anybody. So meaning for you as a student, you would go there without this kind of pressure of, I have to focus on my studies and I simultaneously have to learn a language. That's not necessary, because everybody speaks English. And that starts not just from university personnel or people in academia, but people in everyday life. It doesn't matter who you meet, if it's the bus driver or the friendly cashier. Everyone speaks fluent English, and you can always communicate, and you can always make yourself understood. On top of that, there's a very, like Swedes are very open-minded and very, very friendly. So when you go to Sweden, just speaking English, like, won't be a problem. Like, people won't look at you and feel irritated because you don't speak the language or anything. It's actually the opposite. It's for me, it was the experience when I started to learn Swedish in the beginning. I was putting in some effort, and every time I tried to speak Swedish, people were just smiling at me and they said, "Oh, it's very nice of you, but we can just speak English." To which, obviously, if you're invited like that to then communicate in English, you will take that opportunity, right? So I learned early on that I can basically relax. I can speak English. Everybody will understand me, and there's no pressure for you to learn Swedish. Then another important element of my experience in Sweden was the multicultural setting at the university. For me, I always loved traveling. I always loved to meet different people from different cultures. And in Sweden, you have exactly that opportunity. And that was like, I was really grateful to meet so many cool people from different countries, different regions in the world, and to connect with them and to learn about their culture. And the beauty of that is actually that you are studying and progressing in your education and in your possibly career path. And you also have people around you from everywhere that can give you this cultural knowledge and exchange, which for me was such a beautiful experience, because I was able to not just study and focus on, studying and towards a career goal or towards a degree, but it was almost like being not just surrounded by cool people, but actually like traveling for myself. It felt like traveling, like not being in different places, of course, but you were able to connect with different people. And that was very cool. We had people from America, people from all regions in Asia, from Pakistan, from India, from Vietnam, like from Japan. It was just, there was this mix of people, many people from Europe, different parts of Europe that I also haven't visited before. And if you go, you will be part of this melting pot of cultures, of religions, of like everything. And I personally, it was so enriching for me that I highly recommend being part of that. And Sweden gives you that opportunity to have this exact experience. Then another point for me that was really enjoyable being in Sweden and being a student in Sweden is the people in general, and especially the Swedes themselves. As I said earlier, they're very, very friendly people, very calm people. They don't give you a hard time. It's your mistakes are forgiven. Like if you do something wrong, which always happens if you're a foreigner in a country, you don't know all the customs, but people are very understanding. If you did something wrong, there's no kind of tension or problem. Like you will be able to learn without having a negative experience, and people will teach you if you're willing to learn. And in general, it's a very safe environment for you. Even if you, as most students, you will go there alone by yourself, and that for some people can be. I always liked it. For me, it always feels like an adventure. I always enjoy having an adventure and like having new experiences. So for me, that was exactly what I was searching for. But I know there are also people who don't feel too comfortable, going somewhere alone, and maybe you're unsure. And for those of you who are unsure about that fact, don't worry. Sweden is a very safe place, a very nice place with very friendly people. So you can trust me if I tell you that it will be a safe bet for you if you go. Then another point that's very important is the quality of the education itself. I was very, very satisfied with the education and with my degree in general. And then it's several different elements that I just want to cover from my personal experience, but also what other people and other colleagues that I worked with and studied with also told me and that we talked about. And these are just a few of the examples. So one is, for me personally, was the quality of the professors. So the professors were very smart, very good, very skilled as well when it comes to teaching and different teaching methods. And you will learn that Sweden, because it has such a strong focus on education, and this education system in general is very good and very, very leading edge, the professors themselves are very knowledgeable about how to teach you. And what do I mean by how to teach you? Teaching is also a skill, right? You can relate to that if you think about your school time, or maybe you did a bachelor's already, so you know how it is to have a professor, to have a teacher in front of you. And you clearly know the difference between a person who is engaged and excited to teach and has like different ways of getting a point across and teaching, and a person who's maybe, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but it's not really good at teaching. The classes are boring and you're not really following because you're not engaged. There, the focus is really on getting you engaged, and basically for you to learn, but also have a little bit of playfulness. So for example, what we did was, there was different teaching method. One method that we used, or that were used on us, was a lot of project work and a lot of teaming up. And one specific example is, for example, we had to read scientific papers as our homework. And instead of having a professor who stands in the front and delivers the message or the key message of the homework, or writes it down on a whiteboard, the professor actually divided the classroom in two groups, Group A and Group B. And then we had to create a model in a group based on the readings. So we had readings, and then we had to work in a group, and we had to decide on one model that was kind of a valid representation for everybody in the project team, in that case, if you want to call it a project team. And then we had to present that model in class. What you notice is that you put two models next to each other, and although we all read the same papers, both of the models were completely different. They both made sense individually once someone explains to you the connection, but they look completely different. And the teaching behind that was not just to visualize knowledge and to play around with knowledge, but it was also that knowledge is not the same for everyone. Knowledge is perceived individually by different people in a different way. And that was kind of just a side learning that we got in one class that I never experienced before. So, and there was constantly not just to focus on project work and to work in groups, but also this small kind of knowledge nuggets that you could use, and that will kind of give you this aha moments where you're engaged in the class. And I had these with different professors in different settings, and it was very enjoyable, and it's a very nice way of learning because you're very engaged in the classroom. Another aspect regarding the professors themselves, also the professors had a multicultural background. So we had professors also from different countries. It's not that all the professors are from Sweden. You will have professors from your own country maybe who also present. And it's very interesting to be taught by different professors, and how their style of teaching differs from other professors. So they're all individual, but they also have a different style. So I had different professors from different continents even. So I was taught by German professors, Swedish professors, American, Australian, Indian, Pakistani professors. I had a wide range, Swiss professors, Spanish professors. There were quite some Italian professors. So there was quite some influence that we had on the multicultural level as well. And maybe just a quick shout out, my absolute favorite professor was Sambit Lenka. I don't know, Sambit, if you see that video, but Sambit was my favorite professor. Sambit is originally from Pakistan, and his way of teaching was so different. And for me, it really resonated to the way that I'm learning. Okay, so there was a lot of models, there was a lot of visual cues, working with models, working with frameworks, instead of writing down text, this is line A, this is line B, this is line C, because I'm not a textual learner, I'm a visual learner. So for me, having a teacher like Sambit, for example, who was using the visual models and actually teaching me how to use knowledge, visualizing basically text in order to comprehend the material. That was something that was huge for me, and that I'm still using to this day. So thanks, Sambit, for teaching me that, just as a side note. Another point that is important when it comes to studying in Sweden, and that I want to give across to you, is the importance when it comes to grades and individual learning as well as project work. So I was very happy that when I got to Sweden, I realized the teaching is a bit different. So the focus in Sweden when you teach is, of course, to pass your exams and the things that come up to kind of check your knowledge, as is normal in every university. But in Sweden, there's a more impact or more of a focus in regards to project work and working together in a group. And it's really enjoyable, because it's not so much an individual pressure that everything leads to a final exam, and then if you don't make the exam, then you're screwed. But in Sweden, it's built towards actually understanding what you're learning and less about cross-checking if you can memorize content. So at the university, I was very, very happy that we had many project works, many project work and tasks where we had to solve something, where we had to create, we actually had a project and we had to create a solution, and then we had to present in front of a group. So you're learning to work with different people, you learn to argue for your case, you learn to present your solutions. These are all elements that are crucial for you once you get out of university. And Sweden, and in this case Jönköping University, really provided me with all the soft skills that are needed once you leave university. And so this is kind of part of your study curriculum. So normally the subjects are lead towards either an exam or group work, or in many cases it's a kind of a bundle of many different forms of examination. So you would, for example, have an exam which would be 40%, let's say, or 30% of the final grade. Then you would have a group study work where you have to kind of work in a group towards a certain goal, and that would be 30%. And then there's a final piece where you have to maybe just present something, or you have to work on an individual assignment, and that could be another 10 or 20%. But it's always created in a way that they actually focus on teaching you something, not just for life, but also an important skill, and connecting it with different elements. So there's not so much pressure on just getting your exams done. And it depends on where you're from. Like me being German, in Germany there's a strong focus on written examination and an individual examination. So we are used to having lots of exams, and then there's a lot of pressure when it comes to examination, because if you fail the exam, then you have to redo it in the next round, and then it's just a lot of pressure, which takes away the joy of studying to some extent. In Sweden, on the other side, you don't have that. So it's a bit more loose, it's a bit more enjoyable, I would say. It's a bit more on giving you soft skills as well, and not overdoing it with the exam part. Then let's talk about sports and sport activities and things to do outside of university. Let's start with sport. One thing that's very important is, of course, to be balanced, to not just study, but to have a life around studying. And one of the things is, of course, physical exercise. And in Sweden, it was really nice because they provide special offers for students, especially. You have the traditional ones, which are the gym membership that's 50% off, or a nice incentive for students so that you can afford it, affordable exercise plans, and B, that you're basically also motivated to go. Then there are other course-related options that are also part of the university, so you can do from yoga to dancing to soccer or any type of team sports. There's a lot of variety in what you can do, and I highly recommend, if you go to really be active in those groups, to get to know a lot of people and to have fun. You're there to have fun in the end. Also to learn and to study and to get your degree, but You will have a period where there's time carved out for you from society as well. You know, you can be there, you can be free to do what you want to do, because next to studying there will be so much time available for you to actually focus on the things you want to do. So use that time, and use that time to your own advantage on how you want to use it, and Sweden will provide you the means of doing so. Then that brings me to another point, which is the beautiful nature in Sweden. Like Sweden, if you look at some pictures, it's just a beautiful country. You know, it's a huge country, and it's beautiful. It's green. It's crazy nature. It's incredible to have lived there and to see that nature for yourself. It's very clean. It's very tidy. Everything is, you know, nice and thought through. Let's say thought through. You know, you have like the outside barbecue area that's free for people to use. You have the like outdoor gym that's free for people to use, that's built in a central place where everybody has access. You have bus and train connections that are constantly running. You have bike lanes. Everything in terms of infrastructure really works within the city, and also to get out of the city, to actually go into nature, go to nice walks, go to have a picnic. Like there's so many things you can do in Sweden, and one of the big things for me that for some of you might be normal, for other people it might be new, or you haven't experienced this before, is for me it was the air. The air quality in Sweden was amazing. So you have this feeling of just fresh, woody air. You know, and since it's also rains from time to time, right? You always have this nice, clean air 24/7, and I don't even know how to explain it to you. That does something to you, okay? Like especially if you're outside for a nice nature walk. There's almost nothing better than, you know, being in Sweden and going for a nice long walk. Now let's talk about those of you who have ideas that you want to implement, and maybe you're actually thinking of starting a company part-time next to your studies. Because that was some of the ideas that I had when I went to Sweden, was to maybe even start a company. And Sweden really provides you a lot of tools if you want to do that. They really encourage people to start businesses and to follow their ideas and actually, you know, get them down and actually do something with them. And what I mean by that is, I just give you a quick comparison. So I'm German, and in Germany there's also a certain level of entrepreneurship, but compared to Sweden, the problem in Germany is that a lot of ideas get killed in the beginning, because people will tell you it doesn't work, you need this, you need that, that's all too complicated, don't even bother. So there's not really that much encouragement for me personally. Whereas in Sweden, you really get encouraged to follow through with your ideas. And that's provided, let's talk about Jönköping, where I studied. Jönköping has what is called a science park. So in the science park is there with full-time employees, with business developers, with people who have or who already created companies and are there to help you creating yours. They work together with the university. So if you have a business idea or an idea that you want to follow, you can use these resources. The Science Park, for example, is available for students to pitch their ideas and to talk to professionals, and helps you through the creation process, not just from, okay, how do I start a company, where do I register, what is needed, but also all of the other points regarding your business. You know, what is my market? Do I have market fit? Do I have an MVP? What do I need? How do I write a business plan? Like, these are all things that are covered, and with people who actually have the expertise. Now let's talk about another important aspect. You see there are a lot of points that are pro Sweden. And another one of those pro-Sweden points is the coffee culture. I am a notorious coffee drinker, so for me coffee is an essential part of life. And I believe many Swedes are actually joining me or have the same opinion when it comes to that, because in Sweden you have a strong coffee culture. So you have very nice cafes where you can sit and study and can have a coffee with your colleagues or with your former classmates, and it's very cozy places, very just very enjoyable. The environment that they create for people is very, very nice. So if you like coffee, then Sweden is your place. And that brings me to quick talk about Fika. So Fika is, I don't have the one-on-one translation to that right now. I might make a separate video about that, or if you look into our posts, I think we have some posts about it as well. But what it means is that the Swedes, they do take regular breaks from time to time, and having Fika is a typical Swedish thing. It's just to, have a break, have a coffee, have a talk, talk with each other, and not work related, but just, being present with someone, sharing a nice coffee, and then continuing whatever you were doing before. Another point I wanted to mention is the connection between university, organizations, and companies. It's very interesting how it works in Sweden. So when I studied in Jönköping, we had a business management class, and part of the business management class was that we provide consulting for a local newspaper company. So the newspaper company, they had representatives who were coming to our class, talking to us, talking about their specific problems or challenges that they were facing. And in our class, we were then divided into different groups, and we were actually trying to consult them not in real time, but on a real life issue, which was really interesting. So you don't just get interesting case studies from books, you are actually able to talk to a lot of company representatives. So it's not just that companies are integrated into the program or in the program subjects, but also there's a lot of events where people or company representatives are presenting. When I studied in Sweden, one of the co-founders of Spotify came to the university to hold a lecture and was available to answer our questions. So there's a lot of focus of getting you in contact with representatives from companies to already early on be able to provide you with a smooth transition towards your first job after university. So what the goal in Sweden, or what they provide you with, is with the access to different people, and it's then in your hand to actually talk to people and position yourself, or even ask for internships, ask for a job maybe. It's just it's a very casual way of getting to know different people, and it's very enjoyable because there's no pressure, there's no resistance when it comes to that. It's just there's a stage for students, universities, and different organizations to work together and to talk. Let me just summarize now what I think why Sweden is such a nice place. If you look at what I just shared with you, what I would say is this: for me personally, I had many doors that opened through studying in Sweden. If it comes to potential career path that I was able to enter, if it comes to the network that I was able to generate and that I still have availability to, all of the people that I met around the world that I'm still in contact with. And it was such a positive experience for me that I would gladly do it again if I could. So I was very happy that I chose the right place for my own master degree. And I can just say that everybody who thinks of studying in Sweden and is thinking of going there, having an adventure, studying in English, maybe even studying in Sweden if that's your thing, you won't be disappointed with your choice, and I believe you will have an experience that's as good as mine was. And with that, I will leave it at that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, just reach out to us or book our free consultation. And if we can help you on your road to Sweden and you want some additional support, you know how to reach us. All right, take care, bye-bye.